All right. Settle down. It's an exciting episode. Super excited. This is total episode 99 of the podcast. So I'm super excited for that, first and foremost. Next week's a very special episode of the show. It's April, so it's my birthday month, and it's show number 100. And I have an amazing guest lined up. Someone very close to me in the fatherhood world is coming on as a guest. So I'm super excited. But welcome into another week of the Young Dad podcast, and that's what you call a teaser. I'm super excited to be here today with Ethan. Ethan is an online health and fitness coach. He's a dad. He has a nice, fresh little babes, fresh out of the oven. Probably seems like it was just yesterday that he came out. And he just has a wealth of knowledge. And I got connected through him, through another friend of mine that podcast. I heard him. I'm like, I want to talk to this guy more in depth, but with my style. So really excited to talk to you today, Ethan. Ethan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, about your what you do, and just a little bit about your fatherhood journey so far.
Yeah, so my name is Ethan Linn. I've been a health and fitness coach for a little over 10 years now. Married, a beautiful wife. I have one son. He just turned 1 year old, so I'm a very new dad. We have talked about having a second kid at some point. We'll see when that time is right. Still making adjustments to learning how to do this the first time, but yeah, grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so everything outdoors is kind of what I grew up doing. Love the West Coast. Yeah,
I love it. No, West Coast is best coast. As the listeners
that's
know,
right.
I'm in Washington. I grew up in South Seattle for majority of my life, and then in Mill Creek, Bothell area, and now I live in the Tri-Cities. So I'm more so rooted in Washington than anything else. Mariner
Yeah,
baseball, Seahawk football, Huskies are my college team. Even though I get banished to oblivion for rooting for them on this side of the state, it should either be Wazoo
yeah,
or Gonzaga. I do love some Gonzaga basketball. I think everyone in Washington loves some Gonzaga basketball. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, PNW where it's at. If I had to give you one piece of advice, I know you didn't ask, but I'll let you know anyways. Uh,
Please.
for that one kid to the second kid, what my ex and I did was that we waited till the first one was gonna be out of diapers before the next one. So
Yeah,
I'm making
that's one of
sure
the
the
things we've
first one's
talked about.
yeah. So 100%. That's like the deciding factor. At least it was for us. It's like we could have another one, but it's like she sleeps through the night now. She's a little bit more independent. She can do a little bit more for herself, and so she's a little bit more self-sufficient. Am I seeing kind of the
Yeah,
backside of that now with her actually being older and having younger siblings? Maybe it forced her into a little bit too much independency, uh, or didn't get her enough attention early on. But you know, that's what therapy's for.
that's right. That's right.
So tell us a little bit about you've been doing health and fitness coaching for 10 years. That's a very long time.
Yeah,
That goes back to 2014 when it was probably a whole different ball game. So tell us how you
yeah.
kind of approached it from 2013, 2014, because back in that time, I also did personal training and it was
Okay.
wildly different than it was now. I did it while I was in college.
Yeah,
It's wildly different now than it ever was before 10 years ago. So tell us a
yeah,
little bit about how it was when you started and kind of where you're at now and what you focus on with your
yeah.
clients.
Yeah. So when I very first started, I was going to school to get a degree in exercise sports science. Um, and I started working at a big box, like 24-hour fitness. So I was training any clientele. I had a 13-year-old client. My oldest client was 97. So like goals ranged all over the place. Uh, but I was also a very new trainer. And I was also young enough that I bought into a lot of like bro science and like this has to be your life and everyone has the same 24 hours in the day. You have to make this a priority and like all this. And for some people that worked great. And for a lot of people that didn't work well at all because life. So as I matured and as my training style also changed, and how I developed over the years, and like what does real health mean, and what do the vast majority of people when they say I want to get healthy again or I want to lose weight or be able to whatever, what does that really mean? And so my coaching has changed drastically, um, and a big piece of what I have been trying to do this whole time is continue educating myself and figuring out the best way to do things. So how I coach people has changed drastically. I was doing in-person coaching, so face-to-face for most of my career. 2020 happened. I helped open up a small independent gym, and then like 3 months later, COVID happened. So we actually rented out all of our equipment to all of the members that had signed up, and we did everything over like Zoom. And so that brought this whole new era of like remote coaching. And then I started doing online coaching. So now 90% of my coaching is either over Zoom or totally remote through my coaching platform. So I have clients like in Canada, I have clients on the East Coast, I have clients down in Texas, I have clients in Utah, like all over. Um, so that's been really cool, but it's also made me and forced me to adapt how I act as a coach and how I coach my clients because I'm not there in front of them like, here, squeeze this muscle. I can't like poke their back and be like, squeeze your lat. That's not a thing anymore, really. So how I coach people and how I help people get from point A to point B looks completely different than it did when I started and even from 5 years ago.
I can only imagine because I remember when you mentioned bro science. I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of the thing, but it was
Yeah.
always, and it still is with a lot of guys I see that are my age. That it's more like, oh, we're just gonna lift and we're just gonna get big, we're just gonna get swole kind of thing. We're just gonna lift, we're gonna bulk, we're gonna
Yep.
do all these things. One thing that I did that was so different with that I did with the other group because I worked through my school, um, and we had this program that was called the Biggest Winner, so kind of like a positive spin on the Biggest Loser,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
people who had the health issues that really needed the support and the coaching and the training for them. And so that was a unique challenge for me because it was like, okay, I'm used to working with dudes who are all
Yeah.
subscribed to bro science. Now I'm working with
Yeah.
women, some older people who are a little bit older, and then just all these different sizes and shapes of bodies. So I was already kind of working with healthy dudes, um, who just
Hmm.
needed a bit of a push, who just needed a bit of a more of a plan, more of a routine, to
Yeah.
get to what they wanted to do. But now it totally changed like how I looked at things working with this new group because it's like I need to work with them on their total body. Like I need to work with them head to toe. I can't just say go and lift a uh go throw 245s on that bar and you
Right.
know give me 10 sets of 5 squats or whatever, or split
Hmm.
jumps or whatever. I can't tell this person to go and do that because they physically cannot do that. They can maybe
Yeah.
do one set of 5 with a 10-pound dumbbell over their head laying flat on
Right.
a bench kind of thing, so it was
Yeah.
completely different. So then I really started to learn more about like total body. And that group I was with,
Hmm.
we had a couple other trainers, and they introduced me to something that for me, just my own health, really helped me. They introduced me to a super circuit, something that
Mm.
if you're subscribed to bro science, you probably don't know what a circuit workout is. Um,
Hmm.
which and then I found this and I'm like, holy crap! Like my butt, I would do the workout with my people. It's something I always really liked doing. Um,
Uh-huh.
was to do it side by side with them. So then I got introduced to the circuit workout, and I was drenched. I was tired. My whole body hurt because I worked
Yeah. Yeah.
everything: neck, shoulders,
Right.
back, core, hips, legs, everything. I worked everything, and I'm like, holy
Yeah.
crap! This is like more for me than anything ever was before. Because all through high
Hmm.
school, I was always like, I was like skinny fat. So I wasn't like out of shape, but I wasn't like the most in shape kid. But I was
Sure.
athletic
Sure.
enough to get by. And so, but it was always like, well, you need to get muscle, you need to get big, you need to do this. I tried all the stuff that my coaches told me in high school for different sports. None of it worked for me. I couldn't get bigger.
Mm.
I barely got stronger because it was just I'm just
Mm-hmm.
lanky. I'm just lanky. I would just get
Yeah.
fatter if anything else, and I didn't like that because I was eating
Yeah.
more, trying to lift, but my muscles didn't grow. And once I was introduced to this, I was able like, holy crap, this is just overall strength training, like head to toe. Like this for me
Yeah.
is going to help me be sustainable for a really long time. So even now, when
Mm-hmm.
I go and work out, I do some cardio. I don't do a ton of cardio because I can still get cardio in through lifting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to work my heart just the same. And but now I try to make my own circuits because my gym doesn't have a dedicated circuit area like a Planet Fitness or big box gym is
Oh,
gonna
sure,
have.
sure.
Uh, but I think it's just so much healthier, and it definitely has changed because I still don't see a lot of people doing it when I go to the gym. I still see a lot of people subscribe to like bro science. I see a lot of dads who are
Yeah.
kind of just doing, maybe some treadmill, maybe some elliptical, maybe some um, minimal cardio, lifting some weights, and then that was enough. Calling it a day, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so what are some things that like dads can do for their overall like well-being? Definitely, it's going to be like per person. Everyone's going to be different for what they need. But for you,
Sure, sure, sure.
working with different dads and whatnot, how do you work with them? Because I'm sure there's some commonalities when it comes to that. So, what are some of the common things you see trying to work with them?
Yeah, so uh the first one is usually trying to get to some baseline strength metrics, right? Of like, here's where you are. Let's get you to be able to do XYZ thing, right? Um, and we don't have to get there by doing, bodybuilding style workouts. I actually don't recommend bodybuilding style workouts for most people at all. But, as a dad, I think it is your responsibility to be strong. Like, you need to be able to lift heavy things if needed and it not be a concern. So, and that doesn't have to be like deadlift 500 pounds, but like you need to be able to do a pull up. Like that's a minimum standard. Every dude should be able to do a pull up. And if you can't, let's get you to do a pull up. And what's cool about having strength standards is everything else kind of falls into place. So if you need to lose some weight in the process of trying to get stronger, we will push your body to a point where like that will be a byproduct. You will lose weight because your goal is to get strong. If you want bigger muscles, because you are getting stronger, your muscle size will have to increase because that's how you get stronger. So you add muscle to your body. So dads, moms, really most anyone I train with now, the focus is always like, let's get you strong, let's get you moving well, let's get you pain free. That's another big one. Like parents, dads especially, have jobs that are labor intensive. They have jobs where they're sitting a lot. There's aches, there's pains, there's old injuries. Like I work with a lot of dads who, I played sports in high school or college or whatever, and I have this shoulder that always gives me problems, or I have this knee that always gives me problems. And so, like, playing with their kids, they can't play with their kids as much because their knee hurts or whatever. So it's like getting them out of pain, getting their body as healthy as possible, and then getting them as strong as possible. And strength, what that means for everyone can look a little different, but in the process of getting strong, most other goals are achieved. Losing weight, building muscle, feeling better, having more energy. And there's so many other things that go into that, sleep, nutrition, recovery, stress management. There's like this, I'm very much a holistic approach to health now. But yeah, it's never like how big a dumbbell can you bicep curl? Because who cares? Like it doesn't matter. But like, can you like pick up your kids and play with your kids all afternoon? That means way more than like curling 60s. So
No, very true. And it's also, I think that pain-free aspect's a huge part of it. Because there's always aches and pain. Like I get made fun of by my fiance all the time, uh, for being an old man. Because something will
yeah,
just randomly ache or hurt randomly.
yeah,
So I get made fun of all the time. Not that I'm currently like undergoing anything significantly in pain. It's just like a little sore. Oh, maybe I was sitting too long. Um, it's
sure,
gone in a couple seconds. Beyond that, I think it's so important for dads to be able to go to the park and not get winded. running around and playing with
Yeah,
their kids.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
important for you to be able to pick up your kids whenever they ask, because they're just gonna get bigger, uh, and you're
yeah,
gonna get older, and those things don't necessarily agree. Heavier and older, trying to balance
right.
that,
Yeah,
and so and kids want to be picked up. You never know when it's
yeah.
gonna be your last time picking up your kid, and you want to be able to do it uh,
And you want to
for
be
your
able to do
entire
it.
life.
Yep,
So that's so
yep. And
important.
and the other like the next step of that, I always tell parents especially is like your kids are gonna have kids one day, and you're gonna want to be able to pick up your grandkids. So like if you don't prioritize your health now, 30 years from now, when you're 60 and your kid has a kid and you haven't taken care of your body for the last 50 years, you're going to be so upset that you can't pick up your grandkid or that you can't sit on the ground with them and play or whatever. So, like, yeah, it's about you being a good parent and playing with your kids, but like long term, think about your grandkids. Think about like you taking care of your health now has this generational benefit to like so much further than you could. It's like the one of the best gifts you could give your family is like being the example of what strong and healthy looks like. Because then your kids are going to teach their kids, and then you get to enjoy the time with your grandkids. Like, I mean, it's just this very cool, perpetual, positive influence and impact that you can have on your family. So, uh, yeah, it's important. It's important.
100%. And I think just the added layer on that that a lot of people don't. I think it's I don't even know how to describe it, but an added layer on top of all of it. Like, yes, you can work out, you can have a great routine, but you also need to have a strong, solid diet. And you need to be
Yeah,
eating well. You need to be putting the right stuff into your bodies. Like for me personally, like I'm not a big vegetable person. Like I don't like green things. I've never liked vegetables. But what can I do to make that up? I can supplement. I can get a powder,
yep,
mix it in some cold water. I can get probably 10 times more from that powder than I actually am getting from eating a stick of celery or something. So it's just about knowing, like,
especially if you don't eat the celery,
exactly. I'm like, I'm not going to eat the
right?
celery.
If
I'm
you
not
don't
going to
eat,
enjoy
yeah,
it.
if you don't eat the celery, yeah,
Like, I get it. It's hydrating too. It's like, well, look at how big my freaking water bottle is. Like,
yeah,
I'm hydrated. Like, I supplement my greens. Like, I'm good. Like I started doing kind of a my brother and I we actually started doing like a keto carnivore kind of diet. Uh
okay,
Kind of December-ish coming into the new year. So we're both kind of doing like a keto carnivore diet with a little bit of cheating allowed just to like not cold turkey ourselves or like hurt ourselves or do anything like that. But we're both
sure,
feeling just so great off of it. And but that's what works for us. We know ourselves.
yeah,
We have
yep,
similar genetics, so we're not going to push that on anyone else. I have a friend of
yeah,
mine. Her and her husband are vegan, and they're super happy. They feel really good. Their blood work came back
yeah,
better after being on it for a few months. Like it works for them. But you have to have a good diet. You have to make sure that you're eating well enough. Eating well enough isn't getting
yeah,
takeout every day or some version of takeout or
right,
whatever. Eating well enough is packing yourself a lunch, maybe eating a little boring. Maybe
yeah,
it's eating leftovers from the night before or whatever, but that's okay because that's still better food that you're eating, even though it's boring, than getting the McDonald's fries and hamburger or whatever.
yeah.
And I'm not trying to bash on big food or big fast food or anything. Because do I still eat it sometimes?
Well,
Absolutely, I do. But
yeah, and that's how I coach all my clients is it's the 80-20 principle, right? Like 80-90% when you're crushing it, like 80-90%, if you're eating to actually fuel things that you say you want, I want to be leaner, I want to be stronger, I want to feel better, you can enjoy the other 10%. Like, it's not that you can never have a piece of cake ever again, or you can never, go to Christmas dinner ever again. It's those are the exception to the rule, not the standard, right? And so
mhm.
if you're eating McDonald's every single day, that's a very different story than I have McDonald's once a month because there's a kid's birthday party and that like or some like something like that. It's very different. And so balancing those two things of like, yeah, the majority of time, if you can look at your food as a thing that's helping fuel the goals and desires that you want, eating the boring food is easier because I'm like, this is helping
Mhm.
me get enough protein to build muscle to stay lean. Fine, I'll eat the food. And then when I have that special occasion, I can eat and not have any guilt or shame or weird feelings about eating the fast food or the whatever because I've been so consistent the vast majority of the time that I know that this isn't going to throw it off. And as long as I don't let that one meal turn into a cheat week, turn into a cheat month, turn into a cheat year, you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's all about having like a good, for me, it's about having a good guilty pleasure snack. My guilty pleasure snack
Yeah.
is a really tiny bowl of Cheez Its and a bunch of pickles. I love pickles. I'll drink pickle juice.
There
Pickle
you
juice
go.
is packed and loaded
Yeah.
with goodness, actually. Pickles are just, they're a top tier, like, to me, they're my guilty pleasure snack because I'll just
Sure.
I'll get the big old like tub of Grillo's pickles from Costco. So I have like a
Yeah.
tub
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
pickles that I mow down. Not all at
Yeah.
once. I could, but I'll like stick a straw in there
Sure.
and drink the juice. I'm weird like that. But for me, like I really
Pickles are
struggled
great.
with the whole 100%. They're next level. They're crunchy, they're salty, they're kind of filling. So they hit so
Yeah.
many categories for so many people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
at least for me. But for me, I struggled with the whole food thing. So after my divorce, I don't think I've ever told this story um, on the podcast. So after my divorce 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years this year. Uh, I was, I remember explicitly, I weighed myself and I was about two. I was six. I'm 6 feet tall. I weighed about 240. I was wearing XL shirts, pushing double X. Within probably 6 months of my divorce, it was a mix of the depression, not eating, staying up late, a lot of caffeine, just not putting anything good into my body really. Maybe eating once a day, once every other day kind of thing, just because of how
Yeah.
of all the emotional and behavioral factors that were at play. I went from 230, 240 down to 170 in a matter of just a few months, which is unhealthy, which is
Yes.
super unhealthy. Because I went, and then I
Correct.
remember going to the doctor explicitly. I went to the doctor probably 4 or 5 months in to get some blood work, to get a checkup, normal things, because I wanted to get my thyroid checked. I wanted to get some blood work done to test where my, testosterone levels were, just all the, typical blood panel stuff.
Sure.
And he, the first thing that he commented when he came in, he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I see that you've lost a lot of weight since your last kind of you came in, which was less than a year. So it was kind of
Mm.
obvious." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I have. Like, I don't like. I'm not trying to. It's just kind of happened." Um, I'm like, "I've been really down. Got divorced a few months ago, and then he did his whole screening thing for depression and all those things that he has to do, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, just to make sure I wasn't like at risk of hurting myself or anyone, kind of thing."
Sure.
Uh, so he does that, and he's like, "This is not good." Uh, Pretty much, he was very straight honest with me because I've been seeing him for a few years, so he was able to be, quite blunt.
Yeah.
And he's like, "This isn't sustainable. Like what
Yeah.
you're doing isn't sustainable. Like it's not. You're not going to stay here. You're not going to stay at this weight. You're not going to do this. Like where you're at isn't sustainable. It's not going to work." He's like, Your panel came back really good. No thyroid issues. No diabetes. No none of this. No major issues except your protein is ridiculously low. Your
Yeah.
protein levels are dangerously low. Your vitamin K and your vitamin D are crazy low. Um, I'm like, vitamin D, I get outside and I work outside for a lot of the day. He's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not
Yeah.
eating it. You're not putting anything into your body. I'm pretty sure my iron, my protein, my vitamin D, and my vitamin K were really low. All the things that you get from eating
Food.
food,
Yeah.
right? From carbs and meat and things like that. And so I had a very honest conversation. Um, but then I still couldn't really figure it out. I was still maybe eating. I started eating more than once a day, maybe 1.5 times a day, some snacks, things like that. I started feeling way better.
Mm-hmm.
Working out a little bit more, um, things like that. So now I'm right back up to about 180, 190 range. kind of float in that range depending on how hard I'm going, how bloated I am, how crappy I've been eating. Will definitely fluctuate my weight more than anything. But now I'm in a
Yeah.
range where like I feel really good for my body. Like my body's not
Hmm.
hurting. I'm not too big. I don't feel too small. I feel all my things are more or less normal. I still definitely struggle
Yeah.
with my protein level just because I
Excuse
don't
me.
I don't eat nearly enough. I still maybe eat 1 to 2 times a day. I intermittent
Hmm.
fast, so that doesn't necessarily help me all the time. Uh, but it's I'd rather have just my protein be a little off or a little low some days versus having all the things wrong because I'm not eating at all. So definitely trying to find your balance
Totally.
with your diet is super thing. So yeah, enough diet talk. Anything else that you want to mention about health, fitness, or anything?
Oh, um, no, I mean, I think, I guess a piece of advice I'll throw out there for the listeners is, if you could stop expecting a huge result in the short term and you are more okay with it taking a lot longer to get where you wanted to go and just trust that it's going to happen if you keep going, it'll happen. I see this, I've seen this for the last 11 years now, where people go, I want to lose weight, and they are doing all the things for like 90 days, 60 days, and then they're not where they want to be, and they're like, I give up. It's like, man, it's been, 15, 10, 20 plus years that you have not been prioritizing your health, and you expected it to happen in 60 days. That's not how this works. Especially if you want, like, to your point, if you want to do it the right way where it's healthy, like I can get anyone to lose a lot of weight really fast, but it's not going to be healthy, and you're going to gain it all back because we're doing extreme nonsense. So instead, if you could give yourself a year, 2 years, if you could give yourself 2 years where you're like, I'm just going to keep doing my best and every day try a little bit harder to stay consistent, in 2 years, people would be shocked with how much progress they can make if they give themselves that much time to get there instead of like, I have to do this in 90 days. Because that is gonna, if you do get crazy results, it's not gonna last, and you're gonna be so bummed when it all the weight comes back, or you feel terrible 6 months later. Like, give yourself more time, you will be infinitely happier, and you'll be able to keep all of that because you did it at a pace that was healthy and sustainable. So you'll be able to keep the results for the rest of your life. It's the reason why diets fail is because people do extreme stuff. I don't know if I can curse. I'm trying to
You can.
be
You
very
can.
perfect. Okay, okay, cool. People do crazy shit. They're like, I'm gonna do this crazy diet. I'm gonna do this crazy workout routine, hoping that in 30 days I'm gonna look completely different, and it's never the case. If you're trying to do it the right way. So stop trying to get results in 30 days and start thinking in like 6, 12, 18, 24 months. You will be shocked with how much progress you can make.
100%.
Yeah,
So talking about the first
get off
30
my
days,
soapbox.
you're good. Talking about like
Yeah,
30 days that you're expecting something crazy different. Let's talk about the fourth trimester, aka the first 30 to 90 days after the baby comes out,
yeah,
after your baby's born. And let's talk about that a bit. I think this is a great segue. Those
yeah,
first 30 to 90 days, that fourth trimester for men, we're going to talk specifically about men. I think everyone knows how hard it is for a woman going through breastfeeding, recovering from pushing a baby out of your body, uh, having to your body dilate to 10 centimeters to get this baby out, and all the pain, the blood, the horror, all the things that come with that. We know that. We know how hard it is on
yeah,
moms. It can also lead to C-sections or all the different things that could happen. Uh,
yeah,
we know that. We validate that. We honor that. We love that. We respect it. We could not appreciate it more. One thing that we don't,
yeah,
that's not talked about in any way, shape, or form, anywhere that I've seen, minus maybe my friend Kelly's podcast, new podcast that he came out with a few months ago called The Miscarriage Dad. Outside of that platform, I rarely see anyone talk about men dealing with postpartum depression. And
yeah,
that first 30 to 90 days, like, your whole world's turned upside down as a dad too, because now you don't get rarely any time for yourself because you're taking, and that's okay. That's part of the what we signed up for when we decided to,
yeah,
you know, get our significant other pregnant. We knew that was
yeah,
going to be part of it, But so we're not complaining about it. So please don't hear that we're complaining about this at all, or we don't want to do it, or didn't want to do it. We're not complaining at all.
Yeah.
It's all just a preface here. But that we're taking care of our wives or our baby mama or whatever they are to us. We're taking care of the baby. We're getting up. We're likely still going to work. Well, after a few weeks or whatever, not as nearly as long as she's going back to work. And so we're still doing all the things plus more. And we are now suddenly we're cut off from all our friends. Anything that we want to
Yeah.
do. If we want to play games, nope, I got to take care of a baby. Pretty much the only things we get to do are take care of our wives, take care of our babies, and go to work. And that's pretty much it. And so that postpartum
That's it.
depression can definitely set in really hard for men. Uh, so let's talk about that. It gets disregarded. It's
Yeah.
super real. For you personally, did you feel yourself that you dealt with some postpartum depression after your son was born?
Oh yeah. So backstory, and I will add to your preface, like, agree 100%. This is nothing to take away from the the my wife's experience or any woman's experience with delivering a baby. But it is something where I remember when I kind of had the aha moment of like, I'm pretty sure I'm having like postpartum depression. Like this is because I've usually been very even keeled emotionally in my relationship with my wife. I was the rock. Um, and after the birth, it completely flip flopped. We were both kind of drowning there for a little bit, but then she kind of fell into this more stable position, and I was just a mess. But when I would tell people this, they would all shrug it off like, "Dads can't get that. That's exclusively a a new mom thing." And I remember being like, "Oh, that's crazy," because I don't know how else to describe what I'm feeling other than depression. And so that was interesting, just how that was received by people, but it was very real. I own my so I own my own business, so I got no time off. He was delivered. He was a NICU baby as well, so that was really hard. And I was in the NICU working on my computer, and that was horrible. That was rough.
Yeah.
Um, and then he came home. Luckily, he only got better and better through the NICU experience, so that was a relief. But like leaving your baby at the hospital, going through that whole experience of childbirth, and then leaving your baby at the hospital to go home every day was also a very traumatic. Seems a little extreme, but like that was a very hard experience. To like you have this child who isn't healthy in every way, shape, and form, and you're having to leave them behind to go home and just worry the whole time. So that was rough. Um, Working for myself, I got 3 days off essentially. Um, he also was a month early, so like I was prepared, but we weren't expecting that to happen, and so my plans around like what my time off was going to look like and prepping my clients, that timeline all got crazy, so I got no time off. Um, and then yeah, I just noticed just how my emotional high after delivery just plummeted and it never came back. There was never this feeling of like, I'm so happy right now. Like I'm so happy that my wife is healthy and safe and she's recovering well. I'm happy that he's recovering well in the hospital, but like my personal joy with the situation uh, was not there at all. It was a weird void that I had never felt before, and there wasn't anything I could do because I also feel very blessed. I do what I love for a living. I get to coach people in health and fitness. I love health and fitness. So like I love what I do and I got no happiness from my job anymore, from my work. Um, yeah, it was this very strange void that when I told people about most often was dismissed wholeheartedly, which also was so strange to me. Uh, but it also just was like this very brash reminder that most often men are only seen as valuable for their utility. If I wasn't offering utility, it's like not adding value to the situation. So that was also a glaring reminder that so often I think men have their own struggles. We do struggle, and it's there's we can work through it, and most often guys struggle silently because if we tell people about it, they're like, "Cool, who cares?"
Pretty much. And
Which
no,
is rough.
100%. And I think it's a couple things that I don't love about this conversation that we were having. I love the conversation overall. It's a great conversation. It
Sure.
needs to be had. But the first part of it is that we have to preface it so much. And we have to give so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
preface in context. Like that in itself is very disheartening. And I'm sure a lot of other dads are like that are listening right now are like, wow, like I didn't even think about that, but we do have to preface like everything that we want to say about ourselves, feeling wise,
yeah,
emotionally, we have to preface and not to take anything away from anyone else, but to actually give ourselves like
yeah.
a little bit of light for it to be okay. And then the fact that
Mhm.
you thought about not using the word traumatic. Because that experience, at least for me, I work in mental health, I'm a mental health clinician. I would perceive that experience as traumatic for you. I would perceive that as traumatic for myself. Going and leaving my baby every day at a hospital, hoping and praying that they just get better, but not knowing and being able to do it. Something that's completely out of your control, that you're not even there all the time for, that you're just going back home with your wife every day and
Yeah,
sitting in silence. You're probably a lot of tears, probably a lot of anxiety,
yeah,
probably some depression. So that's traumatic.
yeah,
But the fact that we can't even say that our experiences are traumatic are a whole nother thing in itself. Uh,
yeah,
because, like you said, it will get dismissed. It does get dismissed 100% of the time. I say society's slightly moving in a direction to where it's not, but there's still a big reason, and this is part of it, that there's a 4-to-1 suicide rate for men. Why men take their lives by more
yeah,
lethal means in our country, in America, day in and day out.
yeah,
4 men to 1 woman, day in, day out. Fathers, veterans, normal guys, men that are over 40, husbands, fathers,
yeah.
uncles, friends, neighbors, 4-to-1. 4-to-1. I lost my little brother about 4 years ago to a suicide. Like there's
I had a good friend last year, who I worked with actually, uh, who took his life. And if you would have asked me 6 months before it happened, 3 weeks before it happened, I talked to him the day before it happened. Um, he wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have known.
mm-mm,
Because when people say, "How you doing?" we go, "I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm good."
mm-hmm.
Or whatever platitude we kind of throw out there because it is easier than saying, "I'm drowning. Someone please help." So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
like I'm exactly because it's easier because no one's gonna care anyways, which is part of the problem.
yeah,
Part of it's also our
yeah,
system that
yeah,
we have here in our country, that if we do go and talk to a doctor, it's maybe we get 5 minutes with our doctor to actually tell them what's going on, and they'll just write us a script and send us on our way. Here you go. You're depressed. Here you go. Get out. Go. I gotta go to my next one because our system is so just like over jam packed. But then again, you have to make sure that you have medical care to be able to go and see that doctor, so you're not paying an absurd amount of copay.
yeah,
Because if you don't even have insurance, you can't even get in the door. Because there's no way
yep.
the normal person can afford that out of pocket. And then it all wraps back to, and I've been talking about this a lot lately. If you listen to the last few episodes, there's there's probably nothing more lonely than being a dad, than experiencing being a dad at times. It can be the most joyful thing, be
Yeah.
the most fulfilling thing, but it's also one of the most lonely things at the same time, which is so weird. But I love how you mentioned that
Hmm.
nothing was bringing you joy and fulfillment anymore. Your job, your kid, like there was just this void. And I think that's manifested so different for different men. For me, that was manifesting a lot of anger. I was angry. I would
Hmm.
react negatively toward people I worked with and and I would interact negatively with coworkers at my job, with my wife at the time, to where that like kind of just played through our whole marriage, to where the birthing experience the first time around was really, really not great for her. Second time around, better. I'm better now. I'm a different man than I was then. Um, Regardless, it manifests itself in so many different ways. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to realize that how it manifests for you. Like my depression, my anxiety, things that I've always dealt with have always been manifested through like anger and reaction and being reactive toward others and lashing out toward others. Um,
Hmm.
so then I don't lash out at myself, so I don't hurt myself in some way. It goes out towards others. Uh, but that loneliness, kind of wrapping back to that, like it's lonely being a dad, which is really, really weird at the same time, because it's like there should be so much more fulfillment in this. Uh, we have our kids, it's a joyful time. We're hopefully still with a loving and supporting partner within marriage and things like that. But it's very lonely at the same time, to where it's very hard for men to work
Yeah.
past that, to work through that. So
I feel extremely lucky. I have a loving wife. I have a loving partner. My son is healthy now. He's doing great. Um, but yeah, it's definitely since having him, my emotions have uh, taken a turn, and I'm feeling like I have to work significantly harder to stay in control of my emotions. I also like my go-to emotion is also anger, funny enough, um, which I think a lot of men, that's probably the case, because that's kind of how we were taught uh, to respond to emotional things, because it gives the illusion of power and strength to be angry and prove that like you're the alpha or whatever.
mhm.
But yeah, I have cried more in the last 12 months than I've cried in the last 30 years of my life. Like it's been odd, very odd. That there will be days where it's like I can't shake the feeling that the world is ending. And so again, we're going back to prefacing, which I'm glad you pointed that out. But like to preface, I feel extremely lucky. I have a good job. I have a healthy business. I have a beautiful wife, healthy kid, beautiful. Like my life's great. It doesn't change the fact that like it's real. Um, and I one of the things I heard not too long ago, which I thought was just brilliant, was with men, and especially when we're dealing with anxiety and depression, if you uh, go see a therapist or you're getting help with it, oftentimes we are presented that solutions are presented that are emotionally based, and men are like action based creatures by nature, most of us, right? So, like, I want to be able to do something to solve a problem, like, give me an action.
Mhm.
And so, when it's like, try this, like, journaling, it's like, okay, great, but like, tell me, like, to do something. And so, one thing that I've actually found with a lot of my dads that I work with, especially if they're struggling with this, is like, we're going to get you to have a health and fitness goal that's specific to like it's something that is going to be hard for like super hard for you to do. I want to be able to deadlift a bunch of weight, or I want to be able to run at 7 minute mile, whatever it is. But it gives them this task where now they have this like I have this goal that I have to work hard to achieve, and I have seen more dads uh, work through emotional stress, focusing on their health and fitness and prioritizing themselves and getting that, uh, than the experiences they've had. And this is all anecdotal, right? This is them
Mhm.
expressing this, but like they're um, working with a therapist or just getting on an antidepressant because that's what the doctor ordered. Like, cool, let's focus on like this goal, this task that you can accomplish, and then that I have seen work wonders. So it's something that I now practice. Like I have stretch goals with my health and fitness because it gives me a task, and that has done wonders in terms of helping, but it doesn't take away from like there's just days where man it's rough. So
100%.
continuing to work on that. Yeah.
100%. I think one thing that men don't understand when it comes to like the therapy world is that yes, it can be about working through emotions and feelings and trauma and things like that. But it's also a great place to learn new coping skills. Uh,
Hmm.
Men, we light up. It's like, ooh, I can learn a new skill. I can have more skills, more things I can show off. Like look how I can calm down. Look how I can do this or kind of thing. So it's all about working with your audience kind of thing. If you're working with a guy or with a
Yeah.
dad, well, like for me and my work, it's like, okay, I know I need to set you some things to do. I need to keep you busy kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I'm going to give you a task to here are your 5 different coping skills. You have one physical, one emotional, one mindset, one maybe 2 physical or whatever. These are your coping skills that you're going to work to master. You're going to work to master these coping skills.
Mhm.
You're gonna work on them and you're gonna try them. But I think coping skills most people also perceive as like deep breathing and yoga and
Right.
meditation.
Right.
Like that's when you think of coping skills. But it's going for a walk. It's going for a run. It's
Mhm.
building Legos, playing Play-Doh with your kid, or all these different things. Playing a game. Those are all different coping skills
Yeah.
too. So being able to realize that mindset as well, super super duper important uh, for everybody. So I think that's
Yeah.
just a
No.
big
I
part of it here.
and you're the probably one of the few. I wouldn't say the first. One of the few uh, mental health advocates where that is defined clearly, right? Because I think that's kind of like we're gonna work on your coping skills, and it's like journaling and like things that it's just not a task oriented action. And for men, so much, even if it isn't like fitness related, like playing with Legos, like build this thing. It's a task that once you complete the task, it does something in our lizard brain that I think helps tremendously. So yeah, I think having that delineation is huge for sure.
And I think 100%. I think also understanding like men, like we're lizard men, we're lizard brain, and we're also warehouse brain. And what I mean by that is we go
Yeah.
into our warehouse brain. Our brain's a big warehouse, right? And it has rows and rows and rows
Hmm.
of steel, right? With racks, racking, everything, right? And each row has boxes on it. None of these boxes touch because they can't touch. They're close by,
Yeah.
but they have just enough space. They're beautiful. They're perfectly
Hmm.
aligned. If you look straight down, you know, that's a crisp line right there. So then we go to row four, third third thing in on the left, and we turn to the right, and we have our box of I don't know, our box of jokes or whatever. I'm just spitballing. But we have our
Yeah.
box of
Whatever.
really awesome dad jokes. And we know we're in the time and a place like, okay, it's time for me to use my dad jokes. So now I'm gonna get out my box. I'm gonna sit on the floor. I'm gonna play with my box. Okay, I'm done playing with that box now. I'm gonna close it up. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna put it back, same spot, same place, so I know where it is the next time. And I'm gonna go a couple rows
Yeah.
over. I'm gonna get my next box and play with it because that's how our brains work. That's why we're so solution
Yeah.
based, action based, logically based. That's why men are. That's kind of just how we're made up. Uh, that's the
Yeah.
best. Like that's the way to break. That's the best way to mansplain it for a man about how your brain works. Um,
No, I think it's perfect. It's so funny too that you mentioned that because even my wife was giving me a hard time because I was playing with my son and I like pulled one box of toys and we played with that one. Like instead of like pulling out all of his toys and he could play with whatever, like I pulled out like one box. Like we're gonna play with these magnets right now, and
yeah,
that's what we're gonna play with. And when he was done, we like put that box away and like pulled out. So like even in a literal sense, like yeah,
we,
we're lizard
exactly.
brain things.
Exactly, but like for me, like I'm the same way. Like I'll get into like this podcast. Like it has to have like I have no other screens open, no other tabs open. Like I have this and I have your questions that you
Hmm.
sent me. That's all I have open because that's all I can think about and focus on right now. And maybe taking a drink of water. Uh,
Yeah.
but before that, I have to make sure all my other boxes are put away. Dishes are clean, desk is cleaned up and organized, things are tidy, beds made, laundry's done. Like if those things aren't done, then I my boxes are going to start mixing really quickly. Uh, it also doesn't help that I
Yeah.
have ADHD, so the boxes do mesh very quickly. Sometimes I forget to put a box back, but that'll happen. But regardless, uh, no, I he's he good. He good. He needs some drink.
He's good. You're good.
Nice. All right. Any
He's
last?
teething, so he's
Oh, those are the days.
poor.
Those are the days. Best things, get get him a chew toy, a baby chew toy. Those things work wonders.
Yeah, we got a bunch of the ones that you like put in the freezer so they're cold and
Yes,
they
yes.
seem to help a lot. Oh,
Or like freeze up some fruit. Like frozen bags of fruit are really good. Uh, young
yeah,
dad
yeah,
tips.
yeah.
Young dad tips right now. Uh, get a frozen bag of fruit. Then he can just suck on like the strawberry, um, or
Mm-hmm.
something that helps. And then he's also getting a strawberry at the same time, so it's kind of like a 2 for 1. Uh, but yeah, cold chew toys. Uh, Definitely some great teething things.
Want to play with the computer?
He wants to play with it. I remember that. I missed that age. I missed that age. Lots of fun. But yeah, anything else? Any last things here that you want to touch on about postpartum depression, mental health challenges for men in general? Uh, Before we jump into the YDP3 here.
Yeah, I think just if you are a dad or not a dad, if you're just a dude who's struggling, like please find somebody, whether that's a friend, if you have uh father figure, uncle, like somebody, find another dude. Um, I promise, like someone will listen. Uh,
100%.
and if you can't find someone that's a friend or family member, like go talk to someone. Uh, the world is better with you in it, I promise. And
100%.
yeah, it please go talk to somebody because we want you around. So please take care of
100%.
yourself. Yeah,
100%. My DMs are always open.
that's it.
My DMs are always
Yeah,
open over on the
literally my
podcast
DMs are
page.
always
So
open.
like hit us
Yeah,
up.
my DMs are always open.
Always open. All right, let's jump into the YDP3. So the YDP3 is 3 questions that I ask every guest, no matter who they are, uh, about kind of like their life, some things that make them who they are. It's a great way to end the podcast on a bit of a philosophical note because we get real deep here. Um, the first one here is, where are you rooted? Like, what makes up who you are? Where are your values, your core values, or what kind of things? Like, where are you rooted? Like, what makes up the innermost workings of Ethan?
Yeah, I think it is the responsibility of the male species to provide and protect. And so if you can't do those two things, and that can mean a bunch of different stuff based on what you're doing in life and who you interact with, whatever. But if you can't provide and protect for the people around you, uh, you have something to fix. And it is your number one priority to fix it. Because if you don't, someone is suffering because you are not doing your job. And that has given me more purpose than almost anything else in my life. Um, is and it's changed, right? Over the years, it's changed. Um, Now, as a dad, like provide and protect. My family is always gonna have a house. They're always gonna. He's never gonna have to worry about where his next meal is coming from. My wife is never gonna have to worry about some strange dude walking up to like her on the street and me not being able to handle that situation. Like it's changed over the years, but that is your responsibility as a dude, as a man. You need to provide and protect for the people around you. So
I love
that's
that.
number one.
I love that. And what grounds you? Like when you're heightened, when you're stressy and depressy, uh, that's just one of my favorite things. But when you're like stressy and depressy, what kind of brings you back down to earth, snaps you back into reality a bit?
So I found Stoicism a couple years ago, and that has been the most grounding philosophy ever. That I have to remind myself that sometimes that's what life is. It's not always sunshine and roses, and if I can be okay with that, oh my gosh, if I can be okay with that, and I can work through it, and I can stay level-headed through the stressy and depressy, I'm going to use that. That's great. As much as possible, that's part of life, and unfortunately, if you can get better and better at that, life actually gets better through the hard times, and the hard times aren't so hard. So, I would highly recommend, because I'm a big book guy.
Who's busting out the literature?
So Ryan, Ryan Holiday literature, super great. Ryan Holiday, anything from him is great. The Daily Stoic is a great it's a daily meditation, so it's 365 days of like a Stoic thought, and then he kind of breaks down the thought. That's awesome. And then he came out with the Daily Dad, so it's Stoicism for dads. 365 days, same guy, Ryan Holiday. I'm plugging all these books. This is amazing. So I bounce between both of those. I'm guessing people. Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life.
Oh yeah, everyone
Every
knows
man
who's
should
Jordan
read this book.
Peterson. Every dude.
Everyone should read that book, and then everyone needs to read his 12 More Rules. What else?
And you don't have to
Start with
read them.
those. If you haven't read
You
those,
can also listen to them. You can also listen to them. Audiobooks.
please. Yeah, audiobooks. In terms of learning, reading and listening, in terms of retaining information, are the same.
Mm-hmm.
If you can read and listen at the same time, there's a little benefit. And then if you can watch something that explains something, sometimes
Oh,
that
it
can
takes it.
hit the
Yeah.
brain center a little
Mm-hmm.
differently. But listening or reading, if you have to do one or the other, I listen to so many books driving around, so
Yep.
it's the same. But those anything from Ryan Holiday on Stoicism is great. And then Peterson, both of his books, every dude should listen to those. But that I would say
100%.
that's a grounding activity for sure.
Love that.
Huh.
All right, last one here
Yep.
is, let's say I don't know you, you don't know me. I walk up to you. Let's say we're at the park, and I see you having just a great time with your kid. I'm just like, that guy's got it together. I approach you. I'm there with my kids too. I'm not just a random dude at a park because I would probably get arrested. Um, I walk up to you and I'm like, I don't know you, you don't know me. I'm in this really dark place. Like my vibe is just giving off all the darkness, all the low vibe, all the like I don't want to be here anymore kind of vibes. And I'm just like, what's your secret sauce? Tell me something that's gonna bring me a little bit. So you get to tell me one, maybe one and a half pieces of advice.
That's a good deep one. I think. Oh man, I have to, now there's a weight to this question. I love this question. I think the first thing I would probably recommend would be to find joy in the smallest thing humanly possible. Uh, because I think we think about happiness as the cool new car or the bigger house or the fancy vacation. And if you can be grateful that you have access to clean water, the perspective of life changes really fast. Oh my God. It has been a new practice of mine to do a daily gratitudes list. So I have to list out 5 things. So I would encourage you at the park. I would say, here's an action item. Here's something you should do: is sit down for 5 minutes, think of 5 things that you're thankful for, and they can be the smallest of things in the world, and do that for a month and never repeat a thing. So like every day when you list out the 5 things, it can't be I'm thankful for my wife as one of the 5 things every day. Like every day you have to come up with 5 new things, and you will so quickly realize like life's pretty good. For most people, life's pretty good because you
I
have
love
to
that.
get down to such a small, minute, like my car. I got to work today. Like, do I love my job? Maybe not, but like my car works. That's such a blessing. So it's finding the smallest things to be thankful for. And then the second thing I would tell you to do as a man is go help someone. Like, go help someone do something and make their life better. You will feel on top of the world.
I love that. All right,
I
Ethan.
think those 2 things.
I'll let you wrap up here. Um, he is he's so cute. Tell the people a little bit about where they can find you, where they can learn more about your coaching and different things like that if they want to connect with you.
Yeah. So I'm on all of the socials. I recently just changed a lot of like my username. So Ethan underscore kettlebell coach. Uh, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. If you are looking for a coach, like I said, I work with people uh, all over North America and Europe. So um, if you're listening, no matter where you are, if you need someone, my DMs are always open. If you want to talk about coaching, great. If you just need some fitness advice, I give that shit out for free. I would rather spend 5 minutes giving you the right answer than you going on Google and getting a bro science answer and
Oh,
like
yeah.
not being able to get the results that you want. So please reach out. And if you're a dude listening, there's someone in your life who probably cares more than you know, and reach out.
100%. Well, Ethan, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated. Um, yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for plugging those books. Thanks for plugging yourself, and thanks for having the conversation with me today, the hard conversations, and talking about the big topics that need to be talked about more. So I appreciate your time and uh, just your effort today. So it's much appreciated.
Yeah, of course, Jay. Thanks for having me on, man.
Of course.